Hello students, welcome you all on our online lecture series on element of machine design subject. This is our unit number 5th, design of springs. This chapter is for 10 marks, and in this lecture we are going to discuss the definition, application and classification of spring. Now we will move towards first point, that is definition of spring. A spring is defined as an elastic body whose function is to deflect, distort, or deform to exert a force or a torque by storing the energy when loaded and recover its original shape when load is removed. In this definition, we have to remember 2 points. First one is that body or the spring is called as elastic member. And what is meant by elasticity? When the load is removed from that object, the material comes to its original shape and size. And the second point is it is used for storing the member when load is applied. And when we remove the load, it comes to its original shape and size. Okay. हियर यू कैन इसी डेफिनेशन को हम डायग्रामेटिकली समझ लेते। एक पॉइंट है, यहाँ पे हमने एक स्प्रिंग को फिक्स किया है एक एंड पे, और अनदर एंड जो है उसका वो फ्री टू मूवमेंट है, जहाँ पे हमने लोड W अटैच किया है। ओके, अब डेफिनेशन यहाँ पे क्या बताते हैं? स्प्रिंग इज डिफाइंड एज एन इलास्टिक बॉडी हुज फंक्शन इज टू डिफ्लेक्ट। यहाँ पे जब हम फोर्स अप्लाई करेंगे तो इलास्टिक मटेरियल, इलास्टिक प्रॉपर्टी होने की वजह से ये डिफ्लेक्ट करेगा, डिफॉर्म होगा, और जब हम प्रेशर अप्लाई करेंगे तब ये इसके अंदर एनर्जी स्टोर करेगा। इट गेट स्टोर द एनर्जी व्हेन लोडेड। मतलब जब हमने W फोर्स अप्लाई किया, मतलब लोड अप्लाई किया, तो ये एनर्जी स्टोर करेगा। स्टोर करने के बाद में यहाँ पे ये जो स्प्रिंग है, इसका जो डायमेंशन है, ये डायमेंशन अभी लेंथ जो है, ये लेंथ एक्सटेंड हो जाएगा क्योंकि हमने W लोड डाउनवर्ड डायरेक्शन में अप्लाई किया है। और जब हम लोड रिमूव करेंगे तो ये ओरिजिनल शेप एंड साइज रिगेन करेगा। इसकी जो प्रीवियस शेप था वो शेप तक वो चला जाएगा। ओके, इसको हम स्प्रिंग बोलेंगे। अभी इसके 2 पॉइंट और भी है। इट इज़ ऑल्सो टर्म्ड एज अ रेजिलेंट मेंबर, एंड सेकेंड वन इज द अमाउंट ऑफ शेप चेंजेस इज डायरेक्टली रिलेटेड टू द अमाउंट ऑफ फोर्स एक्सर्टेड। यहाँ पे हमने वैसे देखा, जितना हम फोर्स अप्लाई करते थे उतनी ही क्वांटिटी में डायरेक्टली इसकी जो लेंथ है, इसकी जो साइज़ है, वो भी चेंज हो जाती है। दैट इज़ द अमाउंट ऑफ शेप चेंज इज़ डायरेक्टली रिलेटेड टू द अमाउंट ऑफ फोर्स एक्सर्टेड। अगर हमने फोर्स उस पर अप्लाई नहीं किया तो उसकी साइज़ चेंज नहीं होगी। जितनी क्वांटिटी हम फोर्स अप्लाई करते उतनी ही क्वांटिटी उस स्प्रिंग की लेंथ चेंज हो जाएगी। ओके, आफ्टर दैट नेक्स्ट पॉइंट इज अ फंक्शन ऑफ स्प्रिंग, दैट इज द एप्लीकेशंस ऑफ स्प्रिंग। Here we have the 4 applications. First one is a spring balance and the engine indicator to measure the force. That means the spring is used in spring balance equipment to measure the force in engine indicator apparatus also. Second one is a suspension in automobile and railways. Next one is to apply force in clutch and brakes. When we apply the clutch, that time it get shifted to the bottom direction, and when we release it, it comes to its original shape and size. The clutch comes to its original shape. Okay, that means here we use a member which get compressed and elongate to retract the element or to come the element its original position. Last application is to store the energy. This application we might use in hand watches, that is wrist watch, toys, clocks, etc. Here you can find their images as per the application. This is our first application, that is the spring is used in a spring balance apparatus and engine indicator to measure the force. Second one is for suspension, and last one is it get store the energy when we rotate the spring. That time it get compressed, and when it get compressed, that time we called it as it is store the energy. And how we will get that energy? In a day period it get unwound, and after unwounding it rotate the another gears which gives the motion oscillatory or rotary as per the requirements. This storing of energy spring are generally used in clocks and toys also. After that we will move towards our next point, that is the classification of spring. The spring get classified into 5 different points. First one is a helical spring, second one is a conical or volute spring, third one is a torsional spring, fourth one is a disc type of spring, and last one is a laminated spring which is called as leaf spring also. Now we will discuss one by one. First one is a helical spring. Helical spring are made up of wire coil in the form of helix and is primarily intended for the compression and tensile load. The cross section of wire from which the spring is made may be circular, square or rectangular. The section, that is cross section, here is a circular which is used in spring, that may be circular also, square also or rectangular also. The two form of helical spring are compression helical spring, this is the compression helical spring, and tension helical spring, this diagram indicating the tension helical spring. In compression helical spring, again two types are there. First one is a closed coil helical spring and open coil helical spring. In closed coil helical spring, wire is coiled so close that the plane contain each turn is nearly at right angle to the axis of helix. That is, the helix angle is very small, that is less than 10 degree, which is draw here. This angle with the horizontal plane alpha is less than or equal to 10 degree, and that spring is called as closed coil helical spring. And in open coil helical spring, the angle is more than 10 degree. And after that, the next point is tension helical spring. These are designed to operate with the tension load, and hence the spring stretch as the load is applied. Here you can see that when we apply the load by using these two hooks, its length get increases, and so we will call this type of spring as tension helical spring, because this type of spring are used only for the tensile load. A tensile helical spring has a coil close to each other, and the tensile load is applied at the end of spring shown in this figure. You have to draw this figure and write its explanation also. This type of spring used in spring balance, spring loaded safety valve also. Then the next point of types of spring is conical and volute type of spring. The conical spring are made of wire coil, are arranged in the shape of frustum of cone as shown in this figure. When we made this type of spring, it get develop a cone, so we called it as a conical spring. And this conical spring are having uniform pitch, that is the distance between two coils, whereas in the volute spring the pitch is constant and the line of action is like a parabola. Here you can see that it develop or it forms a parabola with a constant pitch. Third point of type of spring is torsion spring. This spring may be of a helical or spiral type, which are drawn in the figure. This is the helical torsion spring and spiral torsion spring, which are used for the special application where the twisting force are developed. The helical type of spring may be used in only the application where the load tends to wind up the spring and are used in various electrical machines. When we apply the load, that time it get wind up and they are used in electrical machines. Whereas the spiral type is also used where the load tends to increase the number of coils, and when made of flat strip are used in watch and clocks. The major stresses produced in torsion spring are tensile and the compressive due to bending force. Then the next type of spring is laminated or lip spring. This is the diagram for laminated or lip spring. You have to draw this diagram in your notebook. The laminated or a lip spring, which are also called as flat spring or carriage spring, which are consist of number of flat plates known as leaves of various length having together by means of clamp and bolt. Number of flat plate or circular semicircular plates are bolted together to get a suspension for heavy vehicles, and this type of spring are known as laminated or lip spring. We have one question in details of lip spring, in which we have to write its nomenclature also. In next lecture we will discuss laminated lip spring in details. Up to here we have to only study the basics of spring and their types. First type of spring is disc type of spring. This is the diagram for disc type spring. The spring consists of number of conical discs held together against slipping by center bolt or a tube, which is shown in the figure. Here also we will draw one 3D diagram. This is the top plate and all the conical plates are supported by a center portion, which is called as center shaft or tube also. And this type of spring are generally used for heavy load condition, and the spring are also used where the high spring rate is there and compact size is required. In that situation, we use disc type of spring. Up to here, we have discussed definition of spring, application of spring, and their different types. That is the classification of spring. Now you have to draw different diagrams which we have discussed in this lecture, and 3 points in assignment paper. Thank you.